Welcome back. Campaign Trail, episode 2. All right. Hopefully, we had some people like that last one enough to come back. So, again, we're sticking with the non-modded version here. Maybe next episode we'll get into a mod or so. 1916 election. Historically, if you think about what happened then, this World War I was going on. The U.S. had not entered World War I. And Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, was the winner of the election. One of the reasons that he won the election was he ran on the promise to keep the U.S. out of the war. And so that was a big thing here. I should have read this before I went into that because it literally just says what I just said. Wilson will emphasize the U.S. non-involvement with World War I. Hughes must balance the old guard and progressive wings of his own party, or cast one overbroad entirely. There's a paragraph that I even talk about. War rages in Europe while Woodrow Wilson has used his first term to push a number of progressive laws, such as the income tax and Federal Reserve. Charles Evans Hughes has resigned from the Supreme Court to unite his party and deny a second term. So Wilson was a Democrat, Hughes the Republican. So I think the first episode I tried to recreate history by playing as the person who won. This time we'll flip it. We'll try to run as the person who did not win. And I think we won last time. I'm pretty sure we're going to lose this one because I could be wrong, but I think just the staying out of the war was a big deal and everything. So let's read about Charles Evans Hughes. We are from New York, former governor of New York. He served on the Supreme Court from 1910 until resigning to accept the Republican nomination. He is a compromise candidate, serving on the court during the messy 1912 schism. I'm not quite sure what that was, though. It will be difficult I know what a schism. I don't know what the 1912, what happened then. It will be difficult for Hughes to condemn Wilson's legislation without losing support from progressives such as Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was still a very influential character in politics at this point in time. Many Republicans also favor an aggressive stance against Germany, while others believe Hughes should finesse the issue. Okay, so who do we get two choices here. We can choose Charles Fairbanks or Elmer Burkett. So Fairbanks. I actually don't. I say again. I should do a little research before I come into these, just so because there's going to be some things that I will be so uneducated on it that I'll look like an idiot. I don't know who the historical running mate was for Hughes. I'm assuming it's got to be one of these two guys. Fairbanks served as a senator from Indiana as a vice president under Teddy Roosevelt. He was seeking. Oh, interesting. So he's vice president potentially under two people. That's interesting. He was seeking the top of the ticket this year, but has agreed to serve as vice president a second term. Interesting. Okay. Fairbanks supported William Howard Taft during the split in. Oh, so that must have been a political split of some kind within the party. I don't know. It would balance the ticket in a more conservative direction. Okay. Elmer Burkett, who is from Nebraska, is the only candidate for vice president with significant support, and Hughes could attempt to elevate him. Burkett has served as representative and senator from Nebraska, striking a moderate course on many of the labor and economic issues of the day. His region is more in favor of peace vis-a-vis in Europe as well. Nationally, he is less well known than Fairbanks. So this is where I don't know how influential the vice president thing is as far as their views. So the pros of him would be if he's more moderate, that would potentially help us get some of the Democrats. especially the favor of peace. This guy, if we attach ourselves to Roosevelt, if he's still popular, so basically, it's do we want the ticket to be more conservative or more moderate? Is what it comes down to here. Fairbanks is the more conservative choice. Burkett is the more moderate choice. Um, I'm tempted, even though he's not as well known. I'm tempted to go with him. I'm thinking I might want to try to steal some of the moderates that might lean Wilson. Same thing. We'll do normal difficulty again, winner take all. Okay. Let's take a look at the map here to start. So you can see why Wilson won historically. This is where it started. Obviously, this is not where it ended. But you know, we we got our work cut out for us here. Uh, yeah, yeah. Um, okay. So let's look at some of the issues here. Obviously, we have the war, uh, economics, labor regulation, Irish, German. So a lot of immigration happening at this time. And women's suffrage, obviously, that was another big one that took place during this time, which is giving more rights to women, the chance to vote, things like that. So we'll come back to this as we work our way through. What themes will you emphasize as you accept the Republican nomination and begin your campaign? We've seen alarming measures during Wilson's first terms. I stand firmly opposed to the income tax, the new interference with business, and the reduction in tariffs, which will undermine our prosperity. We can all agree on the need to reform in this day and age. The question is, will we have sensible, moderate change or naked overreach? Mr. Wilson has veered. Oh, it bolds it when you go over it. I just noticed that. Because I saw this one was bold. I was like, why is that bolded? I'm learning new stuff all the time. Mr. Wilson has veered between ineptness on one hand and sudden radical solutions on the other. I am the safe, pragmatic alternative in this contest. My record as governor of New York shows I'm willing to enact progressive reforms and combat machine politics. I will bring this mentality to the national stage as president. So again, if we look at the electoral votes, again, still even in so again, 1916, you still have Vermont and New Hampshire almost just not quite the same number of electoral votes as Florida. Crazy. California starting to get a little bit bigger, 13. But New York is still a big one there. Okay, so let's do this. We can all agree on the need to reform in this day and age. The question is, will we have sensible, moderate change or naked overreach? So okay, so that's what I'm going for here. I'm going for more moderate. I need to grab some of Wilson's support. Where do we focus though? That's the question. Is he too? Oh my gosh, he's so entrenched here in the South. This is crazy. I don't know. I don't know how we. All right, let's focus on a couple states and just see if we can turn the tide. We'll focus on Ohio again because it's 24, so that's kind of a waffling. What's a big one here in the South? Georgia. Now we'll just kind of monitor it. Okay. If in making appointments to your campaign, and by implication, when you're president, will you favor traditional Republicans, progressives, or try for an even balance? So again, if we're going to try for a balance, I'm a moderate candidate, and my purpose is to tie the different strands of our party into unified. My appointments will reflect this. Okay. We got darker, I think, in some of these states. So it's 50, 45, 79. See, we're not even registering down here in some of these states. Okay. Oh, well, that's new. Sure. What position will you take in regards to the war? That didn't come up before in other ones. That's interesting. Is that new to this one? That's weird. That's interesting. I'll have to do that again. What position will you take in regards to the war in Europe as you campaign? So again, we're gonna actually be similar to Wilson on here. What we're trying to do is actually be, again, moderate, be fairly similar to Wilson, but just a little more conservative is the goal. As president, I have no desire for war. However, I will spare no effort to protect the legitimate rights of American shipping and commerce. If Mr. Wilson wants to continue to allow American ships to travel in dangerous areas, it's only a matter of time before we are drawn into war. His claims, I think, I think, I think that's the option there. Okay. I don't think that he's just got such a strong. What motivated you to support the candidacy of Elmer Haskett for vice president as strongly as you did? Okay. I believe that. Well, that's obviously the wrong name. Elmer Haskett. It's not Haskett, it's Burkett. Okay, I was like, wait a minute, what? I believe that Burkett appeals to the voters of the West and will help us win. In this case, I desire to emphasize my commitment to reform and introduce. Yeah, let's do that. Because that's really why I did that. Boy, we're not moving the needle at all. California. I clicked on Ohio. So I guess you can campaign. So California, an important state this fall, is in the midst of a divisive split between progressives and traditional Republicans. What are your plans for visiting the state? So it's 13, so we can't completely discredit it like we did in the last series where it had nothing. We will plan our own visit to that state and call upon the governor and his opponents equally to avoid giving offense. It's best not to wait into the middle of a controversy. We should not make any large trip to California during this campaign. The governor of California can barely be called a Republican. We will coordinate our itinerary with the established party apparatus on our visit. This is a more. I think this is going to backfire if I pick that, but I'm going to pick it anyways. Oh gosh. I didn't look what it was before then. Do you plan to attack Woodrow Wilson's stance on preparedness in war with Europe, and if so, how? Preparedness is a bellicose policy which leads us closer to the very thing we are preparing against war. That is, I refuse to politicize the security of the United States. Wilson and I are both in support of the current measures. Wilson has repeatedly taken. We're going to agree with him. Is that doing anything? It's hurting us in the states that we had. I don't. Okay. Let's go back to Ohio. Do you support the Clayton Antitrust Act, which was recently passed? Do you believe? I actually don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Yeah, Clayton. That's not ringing a bell at all. So it's obviously it's an antitrust act. So it might I might be overthinking this. It might be right in the title. Do you believe that unions should be exempted from antitrust regulations? So labor regulation seems to be pretty moderate across the board. Now, here's the thing: is sometimes you see those and it's like I don't know what the answer is that would align with that. I support the Clayton Antitrust Act and would hope to see further measures enacted to protect the rights of labor in this country. I don't plan to give this act more. Again, we're going to support it because it obviously would have been passed under Wilson. Well, I mean, I know it is, but I gotta I gotta try to turn the tide here somehow. Woodrow Wilson has recently pushed through the Adams. Again, I don't know. I don't know what this is either. An Addison Act to avert a railroad strike, which establishes an 8-hour day for railroad employees. Okay, well, it tells me right there. I should just keep reading. Then I don't look stupid when I'm like, I don't know what that means, even though it says it literally in the next fragment of the sentence. Will you attack this action in your campaign? I don't think I will. Again, I'm trying to be fairly similar to him. And again, labor regulation. Everybody's moderates or progressives. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna agree. Well, I mean, I mean, I don't care. I mean, yeah, whatever. How much will you emphasize your own reform efforts as governor of New York as you campaign nationally? I have a substantial record of reform and progressiveness. Okay, so this is okay. So I might be a little more. I'm going to be a little more middle of the road. Okay, we're turning the tide a little bit here. Let's go back to Ohio. Oh, so I guess evidently you don't get to do it every time. Interesting. That's interesting. I'll have to see like what the criteria are for whenever that thing pops up about the campaigning. Okay. So do you have any plans to attack the nomination of Luis Brandis? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. To the Supreme Court. I believe the appointment of Brandis to the court um, shows exceptionally poor and dangerous judgment on the part of Woodrow Wilson. Um, we would be better served to focus on other issues during the campaign. I'm just going to focus on other issues. Like that's, I don't think that matters. Like I don't think people care about that right now. I don't even know who that was. So I don't know who that guy was. So he must. I don't know if he was that important historically or not. What would you make, or what do you make of Woodrow Wilson's response to the raids and outrages of Pancho Villa? So this, okay. So I do know a little bit about this. So Pancho Villa was a Mexican revolutionary, and during the Mexican Revolution, obviously because he's revolutionary. And he, you know, sometimes would cross the border into the United States. Um, and um, that to try to, I mean, one for supplies, also to kind of escape the Mexican army, and also to try to get the U.S. into the war. And he thought that would. So there's a lot of things, but anyways, Mexico has been in turmoil for years. Anyone with foresight could have anticipated the problems that have arisen from our undefended border. Wilson did not. Rather than directly imposing ourselves on Mexican territory, we should be seeking other ways to assist the rightful government. Every good American should support our current expedition into Mexico to apprehend the villainous Pancho Villa. So, interestingly enough, early on, so a few years prior to this, Villa was kind of his peak. It was like probably 19. I'm going to butcher the years, but a little bit before this was kind of where he kind of reached the peak. And I believe, if I remember, there was consideration of the U.S. considering potentially legitimizing him as the rightful ruler of the country. He was that successful. Things kind of turned on him, and then the U.S. did eventually, due to some of those raids, try to go get him. Never caught him. But he was eventually killed by not from the U.S., but he was killed, I think, in the early 20s. So I'm going to actually, let's see here. Basically, that's a long, short way of saying I'm going to support the expedition in there to get him. Because I think this would have been after he started raiding into the U.S., I think. I don't know if that even mattered. Do you have any statements to make about the Federal Reserve Act, which established the Federal Reserve in 1913? I believe the Federal Reserve was I'm not going to say that. Before this act, our country carromed from one financial panic to the next. The Federal Reserve is a tremendous step forward. The federal idea is worthy of support, but I would prefer that private banks were given a larger role in this operation. I support the Federal Reserve in general, but I believe that we should have established a more centralized federal. Okay, so again, economics, progressive, moderate. So we either want to go. Am I making enough indent though? I don't. I think. I don't think I've got enough to turn the tide of these. I think we're going to run out. Okay, so let's maybe go. I'm going to support it in general. Okay. I'm probably sounding too much like a Democrat. Let's go to New York. Theodore Roosevelt is hitting the campaign trail hard this fall. However, he continues to make bellicose speeches about the war in Europe. Will you distance yourself from his rhetoric? I will emphasize that I'm my own man, and I believe the one-sided neutrality would worsen. I'm not going to comment on the speeches. I would actually redouble the points. Yeah, everybody's anti-war. No, I'm gonna emphasize that my own man. Okay, good. Okay. Although, wasn't Ohio gray before? What are your opinions on child labor legislation as exemplified by the recent Keating Owens child labor bill, if I can talk, which basically what that bill did, I believe, was it just said that it was a child, because you had kids working in these factories. Um, you couldn't trade with the goods that were made by kids, I believe, is what that. I think that's what that bill did, or something to that effect. I oppose child labor and believe the state should pass laws against the practice, as New York did when I was governor, but it is not a matter of the federal government. The recent act is something. They're more moderate on their labor. Let's do that. Okay, this seems to be turning the tide a little bit. I didn't want to go too aggressive and attack them in the South, but we're to the point now where we're not going to be able to turn some of these states blue. It's just not going to happen. Go back to Ohio. What will your position be on the women's suffrage question as your campaign? I think it's supposed to be as you campaign this fall. State by state. Opposed. So it's not really. I am starting to make some inroads in some of these places. We're not going to go quite to the amendment level. Okay, so that was in line with the feelings of the party. Okay. Do you support the level of preparedness established by the recent National Defense Act? Don't know what that was. I'm assuming it's something related to World War One. What we've done so far is good, but we're still far from prepared to meet a type of emergency which might arise. We've taken moderate, sensible steps thus far. I support the mobilization of additional troops along with. If we're so bent on avoiding war, why are we expanding the army and contracting for new weapons? I think we're going to go with this because this is almost too not prepared. So again, moderate view. Mm, 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 mm. Let's go back to New York. We got to turn that one. Do you have a position to take on the calls for prohibition of alcohol? Okay, so obviously this is before prohibition. I don't think that's in. It would not be wise at this point to make any statement supporting or opposing. I'm not gonna commit. Okay. Do you have any statements to make on the tariff question or the recently established tariff commission as you campaign? Was tariffs one? I don't think that was in there. It was economics, which was progressive, moderate. I don't believe the tariff issue will resonate in our current campaign. I will focus on other issues. I'm not gonna. Oh. Whoops. Oh well. Go back to Ohio. Do you believe that certain groups? So it pops up and tells you when you can campaign. So I guess which isn't every turn. But do you believe that certain groups in the United States, for their own narrow interests, are trying to undermine American diplomacy and the global order? I do, and would especially single out Irish Americans in this regard. Okay, so now okay. So this is Irish Germans. Some, many, few. I'm concerned about any citizen. So I'm going to specifically call out German Americans because of the anti-German sentiment. Hmm. Do you support the recently ratified 17th Amendment requiring the direct election of U.S. senators? I have no idea what the stance on this would be. I believe the senators should be elected by legislature of each state in line with the original Constitution. Might go with that. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I mean, it was obviously passed with Wilson, but I was trying to play to some of my conservatives there. What do you make of the preparedness day parades which have sprung up across the country this summer? These are impressive demonstrations, but we shouldn't read too much are against. Yeah, let's do that. I don't think we're going to win this one. Will you make any statements about the increased regulation of narcotics and stimulants such as cocaine, which began with the 1914 Harrison Act? This isn't an important issue. Okay. Oh boy. We're going the wrong way. Do you have any statements to make about the Federal Trade Commission established? We might support it. Oh gosh. Well, it helped us. I think we're too far out of it. I think, unfortunately. Do you have any statements to make about the Easter Rebellion, which transpired earlier this year in Ireland, which, of course, Ireland's had not the best relationship with British rule over the years. It was just an uprising protesting that rule, is what that was. So Irish. Yeah, let's do that. Well, I mean, it helped us where there's Irish. Where will you travel? I think we got to go Midwest. That's the only. I mean, because I think we got to go Midwest. We're not going to win. I think we'll just have to see if we did better than see how we did relative to historical. So, unlike last time, the first series where I didn't look up, the historical results because I thought that it would be nice if they provided them for us here. Maybe they will in the the mods. I didn't know how I did relative to historically. I won as Lincoln, but I did look up this because I wanted to see how we did. So Fairbanks, not Fairbanks. Why did I say Fairbanks? Fairbanks. That was the vice president. Hughes um, got 254 electoral votes historically, and I did not get that many. Yeah, I did way worse than he did historically. I did get 44% of the vote, but yeah, I did not. I wonder how. I wonder how that was in terms of popular vote, though, in terms of the vote I got. But yeah, So I did a lot worse in terms of the electoral votes because it was two. I think it was 277 to 254. I believe is what it was. So let's see. I'm wondering where we. My guess is we did worse in New England than Hughes did historically because he was from New York and he probably would have carried these in a way that we didn't. Um, yeah, there's probably a couple. There's obviously some other ones that he carried that we didn't, but it would have been. My guess is it would have been up in here, Northeast or Midwest, where we lost because I think our strategy we tried to go too. We tried to go down here too much. We should have stuck a little bit more to our base, I think, and I don't know if we would have won, but it would have been maybe a little bit closer. So okay, so well, hey, we're 1-1. I do think this one was going to be hard. I think just given you're going up against a reelected candidate who was still pretty popular in his views, or in his stances, I should say. But it was actually, again, historical, though, proves that it was pretty close. So maybe we did have a chance to win, and I just was stupid with my answers. Anyways, okay. Well, another one in the books. We'll have to, again, we might do one, I don't know. We'll get into the mods at some point here soon, I think. Maybe next time. But yeah, that's it for now. Come on back, and we'll do another one.